My name is Amanda Washington, and I'm studying education policy and social analysis. I went to Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. After college, I participated in Teach for America in DC. I moved to Spain, and then I moved back to DC, and I taught for a year. So I went to Spelman College, and our motto was a choice to change the world. And so during my entire time at Spelman College, I knew that I was going to get out and I was going to change the world. And so I applied for Teach for America, and I actually was assigned a position in DC as a Spanish teacher. I went into my school, high school, and I had wonderful lesson plans. I had, just very sharp and wonderful things that I was going to be teaching the kids. And I knew that this was going to change education, and that my time at this high school was going to be transformative for these kids. But really it was quite the opposite. It was transformative for me because I went into the school with my wonderful lesson plans, all calculated, and one of the kids stopped me in the middle and said, "Miss Washington, this is wonderful what you're doing, but everybody knows that you have to be white to succeed." And so we stopped. Spanish class was over for that 30 minutes for the day, and we really talked about what that meant. And the students told me that they, whether being told messages or whether they had internalized messages, really thought that they couldn't do very much in terms of education or in terms of their life if they weren't, because they were students of color. And so one girl told me that she didn't feel like she could succeed because she'd seen all of these romanticized versions of what a classroom really looked like. Another boy told me that his dad was a drug dealer, and so he felt like there was no reason for him to succeed in a school system that was failing him anyway. So, why not just go on the street and do what my dad is doing, because he's eating and he's paying the bills and he's giving us everything that we need, so I'm going to just do the same thing. And so for me, that really shaped my my time in Teach for America, which was in the beginning of Teach for America, but it really helped me understand that education is not just having a wonderful lesson plan or a very timed out class or wonderful books so that you can teach your kids from these books. Education is comprehensive, and education is delving into students' self-esteem and students' perception of self, really, and it's much more comprehensive than just the books and the teachers and the lesson plans. Well, Oliver Hill was one of the most inspirational people that I've ever met. I met him when I was in elementary school, and he actually was working on a book. He's lead counsel in Brown versus Board of Education, lead counsel for Virginia. He was working on a book, and my stepfather was editing the book with him, just about his time in Brown versus Board of Education, his time in Virginia, and some of the things that he learned along the way. And so as an elementary school child, I would often go to Oliver Hill's house after school and hear about the stories that he told, hear about the struggles that he had and the education that he really believed in America, what we could aspire to. And so I began to internalize what Oliver Hill really wanted and what he was working toward. And I began to see that my friends weren't receiving adequate or equal education. I had friends in Richmond City and I had friends in the suburbs of Richmond. And it seemed like their education was not comparable. It was night and day. So I had friends at Armstrong High School in Richmond, Virginia, who were not allowed to take their books home, who didn't have computer labs, who didn't have a library. Or if they had a library, there might have been about 100 books in their library for a school, an entire high school of kids. And then I saw at Hermitage High School, they had multiple computer labs, they had state-of-the-art facilities, and they even had a system in which each child could take a MacBook home, a laptop home. And so I really began to feel in high school that it wasn't fair. And so I didn't understand in middle school and in high school why it was that my friends had education that wasn't equal, or such a disparity in their educational opportunities, but it began to infuriate me. The thing that's interesting is I was in a school that wasn't Armstrong and I wasn't in Hermitage High School, but just seeing the experiences of my friends and seeing just the different paths that they took because of the education that they were afforded was infuriating. And so that's really when I began to become interested in education, and I saw that I actually could make a difference in education just because I saw the disparity in education. So I actually met Michael Rebell when I was at a screening for a documentary on education in Washington, D.C. So I went up to Michael Rebell and I said, you know, I know that you're a professor at Teachers College. I'm going to be in Teachers College next year. So Michael Rebell says, you should take my class, Comprehensive Education. And so I go back, I look at the class, and I say, yes, this is exactly what I want to take. So I go into class this past week, actually, last week. And it's one of the best classes that I have ever been in high school, in college, in graduate school that I did previous to TC. And I think it really is, it seems to be, a culmination of all of the things that I've seen in my experiences as a teacher, and my experiences working with Oliver Hill and talking to him, and in my experiences with my friends in Richmond, Virginia and Henrico County. So I'm excited about this year. I'm excited about Michael Rebell's class. I had my second class with Michael Rebell yesterday. And in the class, we talk about how poverty affects education, how income and how status affects education, how health disparities affect education, and just thinking about education and not just the school books and the teachers and the tests that you take, but thinking about education in a very comprehensive manner. Income, status, students' experiences outside of the classroom and how that affects their education. So it's thinking about education as a holistic experience, both within and out of the classroom. I am the great-great-granddaughter of Booker T. Washington, and oftentimes, you know, when I was growing up, I thought that it was really just a coincidence of birth that I was the great-great-granddaughter. But now that I'm getting older, I really think that it's a blessing because I can use the knowledge and the not the questioning, but I can really use the thinking that Booker Washington had and the ideology that he had around education and shape it around my own ideology and use that to progress what I think education should be and how I can make my mark on education. So when I was, I must have been about 7 or 8 years old, my dad took me on a walk from Roanoke, Virginia to Malden, West Virginia. And he did so with the intention of really helping me to understand the social struggles that Booker Washington went through. So after he was emancipated in Roanoke, Virginia, he and his family went to find work in Malden, West Virginia. So the entire trip was 500 miles. As an 8-year-old, I didn't walk 500 miles, but he did. And so that was really the purpose behind it that my dad wanted me to see. So I did walk about 25 miles with my dad before I said, you know, Dad, I don't think I can walk anymore. And I cried and I cried, and he said, okay, fine, we can stop. But thinking about that now, as an 8-year-old walking 25 miles and feeling like I couldn't go any farther, thinking about Booker Washington, the same age, walking 500 miles because he wanted to have a better life for himself, or his parents wanted him to have a better life and to find work and to eventually get educated, is very powerful to me. To be honest, I can't concretely say what I will be doing, but I know and I have known ever since I was in middle school that I'd like to be a champion for educational progression and just for social justice in general. Now, whether that's in the capacity of a teacher, or whether that's in the capacity of an administrator in a school system, I can't say now, but I do know that my life's work is going to be to champion education.